Hello and welcome to Talking Bottom. I'm Paul Tanter.
I'm Matt Brooks.
And I'm Ange Pierce.
And this week we are talking about two things. First of all, we're going to talk about the book. And secondly, we're going to talk about the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival in Droitwich on the 31st of May, at which we will be appearing with Talking Bottom live.
What book? What book?
What book?
About?
What podcast? What do you mean live?
Well, okay,
What do you mean? Who's Rik Mayall?
Should we talk about the book first?
Yes, let's, because everyone has been very patient.
We've not had a single bit of negative feedback from anyone. Everyone's been very polite and nice.
No, well, what I love is that most people actually just took the piss with loads of quotes and things on our socials, which is brilliant to read.
Like a sea of bottom quotes. It was amazing.
It made us feel so much better when we were going through a lot of stuff. So Paul's going to tell us about what happened with Unbound.
So the good news is the book is happening after a brief scare with the publisher, but we're very pleased to say that it is going to be published as planned on the 3rd of July. So all the backers will get their book. If you back the book via Unbound, you will get the book. If you backed with a reward, the rewards will change slightly, but everyone will get something good, including those who got a badge, which is most of the people. They will get an exclusive podcast from us where we'll share some stuff we've never shared before, including stuff from draft scripts and other new and exclusive things in an exclusive podcast. Everyone who backed the book still gets the names in the book. I was looking through the written list of backers the other day, and I was really heartened by the amount of people who have given themselves bottom-esque names by adding certain things as middle names and that kind of thing. When you get the book, have a scroll through the backers' names. There's a lot of things like Dodgy So-and-so and McFrenzy and that kind of thing.
Mr. 55p's in there.
Mr. 55p is in there. I know that for a fact. Now, as the book goes out on July the 3rd, but it will take a while to go through the postal system to backers, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be inviting people to join us on publication day at a venue still to be confirmed in London to collect their book and reward in person, where we can thank them and they can take the book to the Rick bench if they want. Then later on that day, we'll be gathering at the bench to celebrate and we're all going to go for a drink. Now, if you don't want to come and collect it, you don't have to. It will still be posted to you. But if you would like to come and join us, it'll be our way of thanking you. We'll also be doing a little something special for people who come, something a little bit exclusive, and we'd love you to join us.
Now, we said
something special. Right?
Should we phrase it very clearly that to go for a drink doesn't mean buy you a drink?
Yes.
No, we'll all share each other's drinks.
People can buy us a drink. The details will be confirmed near the time with emails going out to people, but people will need to confirm in advance that they'll be collecting their books. If they don't confirm in advance, they won't be able to collect it, as it will already be going out into the postal system. So we are excited to finally have the end in sight and it be nearly in the backers' hands and available for people to buy. It's currently available for pre-order now on Amazon with 15% off the price, and the Kindle version is only £6. So if you're a backer thinking, well, I could have waited until now and then got it cheaper, yeah, but if everyone had done that, there wouldn't have been a book in the first place.
Yes.
And also you wouldn't have got your name in it.
It's an investment to have backed it beforehand.
Exactly. The value of these things are skyrocketing.
I mean, I will say, we are still incredibly grateful to all the people who backed it, because it's been a long slog for us writing the book, but having all of that backing when we first put it on Unbound and getting back within a week, it was 7 days, we were 100% funded. That is what motivated us and obviously we didn't get any money, and we still haven't had any money, just so everyone knows. But that was what gave us the confidence to go for it. There was such an appetite for a book about bottom, and we knew when we pitched it that was something that we'd love to read, right? And they always say, write the book that you want to read. And I hope when people do get it in their hands at last on the 3rd of July, that they're going to really enjoy what we've put together. We spent a lot of hours, more hours than we probably should have done when we should have been seeing our friends, families and having a life. But it's a real passion. It's just a passion project for us, isn't it? It was always going to be that.
I've got to say, I've been fortunate in my life, in my professional and personal lives, to work on a lot of things creatively. But I've never worked on something so hard as I have this book, and I've never been as proud of something as I have this book. As Ange said, it's something that I would read as a fan, and I think it's something that bottom fans and comedy fans are really going to love. There's so much. Dare I say it, because it's from us, insight, but also we try not to put ourselves front and centre. There's so much stuff from the creatives, the people who worked on Bottom, so much stuff from interviews that we put in, so many good pictures that people have never seen before, so many interesting things like extracts from scripts from first drafts that Rick and Aid wrote and then they didn't use, that kind of thing. There's so much stuff in there, packed in there in 386 pages, and for a relatively I'm sounding like a fucking car salesman now, for a relatively small amount of cash. And you know what? If you don't want to buy it, I'm hoping it'll be in a library and you can just go and borrow it and you can read it and you'll still enjoy it. Because the main thing, as Ange said, is that we write it for the fans and we just want people to be able to read it and enjoy it and share it. So, yeah, if you've backed it, don't worry, you're getting a copy. If you haven't, please buy it. And that's all I've got to say about it.
Well, I'm amazed you two are so passionate about the book. I fucking hate the whole process.
What came as a surprise, and this is not like a criticism of the publisher or anything, what came as a surprise to me as someone who'd not been through such a professional book publishing process before was the length of time it took to go through the edit process. So I know that we took longer writing it than we would have liked, but having said that, we did update people about why that was the case because we were getting access to new stuff, new interviews, and I do feel that even though we took longer writing it than we wanted to, actually it was worth it because we had a better book at the end of it.
Yeah.
But from the point that we submitted it to the publisher to the point that it was going to be published, it was like that. The space between those two was like a year and a half, and so that was to me a surprise. Now, obviously, things take time to edit and perfect and get permissions for pictures and that kind of thing, but it was a surprise to me, and I realised that added to things for people waiting for the book, because the point at which we got fully funded was July 2021, and the point at which we finally finished the book and submitted it to Unbound was we nearly had it finished in December 23 and we submitted it in January 24. So that was 2.5 years from fully funding to handing it in.
And also we had not written any of it before the funding had started.
Well, we'd pitched
as well.
the idea. We'd literally pitched it as an idea. I think we'd written a draft chapter or two, hadn't we, in order to pitch it and get the commission from Unbound. And it was the overwhelming response from all of you guys who backed it that made us actually get to write it. And I've written lots of articles for journalism, and the editing process in that can be painful, but as you said, Paul, learning how meticulous it is to get a book together is a completely different process. And we've put a lot of time and work into it, and I hope that everyone else will enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed in the end writing it. And why a lot of people did actually say when the Unbound news broke a few weeks ago how sorry they were and upset for us they were, and we were really, really, really worried for a period. So we're just delighted to be able to say that we're continuing with Boundless Publishing Group, and the book will be out on the 3rd of July as planned, because it's been a long wait, and the one thing we didn't want is anyone waiting any longer for the book than they already have.
Paul, what was the name of that author that we interviewed for the podcast who wrote Rik Mayall Comedy Genius?
That was Mark Searby.
I remember him saying something along the lines of, it took like 2 years or something, and I rolled my eyes at the time. So what a loser, idiot! It's not going to take us that long.
It was as we said, it was a surprise. I know we took from fully funding to submission 2.5 years, longer than we wanted, but then to find out that from when we turned it over to it being released, it was going to be another year and a half. That was a surprise, and obviously there were some people who were like, well, it's taken far too long, but most people were so lovely. When we posted saying, look, we're shocked about Unbound going into administration and we're trying to figure something out, 99% of the responses, it was wonderful. It was like a sea of bottom quotes. It was amazing. And everyone was very, very supportive. But the thing we didn't want, and that we're glad we've managed to avoid, the thing we didn't want was to be in a position where people had paid for something and they didn't get it. And then we were like looking at trying to find another publisher or something, because then we didn't want to have to say, hey, you've got to buy the book again, you know.
Yeah, who would do that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not that good.
Well, I'm just glad we aren't faced with that, because it was such a weird week, wasn't it? Because we actually found out we'd sold out at the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival in the exact same week, right? That we actually we heard that there's trouble at Mill with Unbound, and then everything came crashing down. Because if we want to move on to talk about the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival that's coming up in May,
the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival, which I believe runs from the 31st of May to the 7th of June.
So all the best acts will be on the first day, yeah?
Obviously, except for Greg Davis. He's later on in the week. It's in Droitwich. The tickets went on sale a couple of weeks ago.
Why is it in Droitwich? Because that's where Rik Mayall grew up, right?
It's in Droitwich because that's where Rik Mayall grew up. That's correct. And the tickets went on sale a few weeks ago. Several of them sold out very quick. Let's be honest. The acts that sold out on the day did so because they're well-known comedians who have worked their craft for many years and become masters of it. And us because we're talking about bottom.
Yes.
Not because we are us or whatever.
And we didn't even announce our special celebrity guest who we have.
Well, let's talk a bit more about the festival itself. Okay.
All right. Well, keep listeners. Stay tuned. We will tell you of the celebrity guest that you can see if you've already bought the tickets.
Right. So as I said, it's in Droitwich at several venues around the town. The main one of which is the Norbury Theatre, which is where we're playing, and the lineup includes other acts such as Greg Davis, I think I've heard of that guy, the comic strip and Rick Peter Richardson, hosted by Robin Ince. So that's Robin Ince being a compere again. Compere, what would you call that? It's not compere. It's the chair
interviewing.
Yeah. Helen Lederer, Sharparak Koshandi, doing a show called Scatterbrain. Red Richardson, who I believe is Peter Richardson's son. Laura Smythe, Paul Foote. John Lloyd is doing a talking about working with Rick. Tiff Stevenson, Rob Rouse, Joey Page, Rachel Fairburn, and a litany of others, including Paul Bradley, who played the burglar in Bottom, is doing a show called Verbal Diary, which is a musical alongside John Otway. And there's a whole load of other people. There's a pop-up museum of Rik Mayall memorabilia, posters, artwork.
Yeah, I can't
signed
wait to see
copy of his
costumes.
pants is the flyer poster, right?
That's the one, yeah. And screenings and workshops and a whole lot more. And it's all in celebration of Rik Mayall. So you can be pretty sure that everyone attending is going to be there with a big love of Rick.
It's not all about Rick, though, is it? There are going to be some people who are just bringing a show there. Like the Edinburgh Fringe isn't all about Edinburgh, it's just in Edinburgh.
No, they've named it the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival because they're doing it in Droitwich Spa. But it is the inaugural one. It's the first ever one, and it is a celebration of Rik Mayall. It's the clues in the title, Matt. But it's named after him in order to honour him. And Ben Elton is the patron. He's very proud of being that, but he's not actually going to be there. I believe he's away, which is a real shame because that would have been nice to have actually gone and seen his. He's just finished touring, hasn't he?
Yeah. But we will be joined by someone else very special for our special live podcast that we're doing on the 31st of May at the Norbury Theatre.
Not Ben Elton, unfortunately. As
not Ben Elton.
But obviously someone really special. We've not had one before.
No, we are being joined by director and producer of Bottom Series 1 and 2, Mr. Ed Bye.
Some people who are fans of the podcast might be aware that we interviewed Ed as he was our very first guest that we had on as a special guest on the podcast, wasn't he? And that was when we were still a little bit green and a little bit rough around the edges, but, quick wriggle will do. And he's very kindly agreed to join us once again, but live in front of an audience, which we're really delighted about because we'll be able to ask him so many more things that we actually didn't have time to cover in that initial interview.
Stuff we didn't even know to talk about as well.
Exactly. Even though we've interviewed him before, we'll be able to do stuff like he's going to present a selection of his favourite clips, which we'll play live.
That's the beauty of being live in the room, isn't it? We're going to actually have an audience. We're going to be able to play clips and get Ed to react to them live. We're planning on having him do a striptease. No, I keep going back to that as a joke. Someone will do a striptease.
We're going to take questions from fans in the audience in the run-up to the event. So we'll have some questions from people that we can ask him live on stage.
Yeah, so if you've got any questions for Ed Bye, live in the room on the 31st of May, do email us on 11maffickingparade@gmail.com. And we'll obviously be having to sift through a lot, and we don't know how much time we're going to have on the day, but it'd be great to get your questions in, and we'll put things to Ed that maybe he's never had put to him before. Try and keep it on Bottom. Obviously, we will probably touch a little bit upon Red Dwarf while we've got him live in the room. It would be rude not to. But we're really excited about having him. And he's been so good. I mean, we should say that he's written the foreword to our book.
He has.
As well, hasn't he? Which is another little bit of info for everyone. Not everyone knows that. He said when we interviewed him that he was a fan of Rick and Aid when he was working with them, and I think that again just comes across in how supportive he's been of us and this podcast, and that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing him again and chatting more about Bottom with someone who knows it inside out. So we'll get more out of him than we got 2 years. When was it we interviewed him? It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, it was the end of series 2 of our podcast.
Yeah. It was pre-pandemic.
Whenever that was. Something I brought up when we were speaking about the Bottom documentary that we were on. I don't think Ed Bye has had enough screen time because he is a bit of a performer himself. He's got it. Like, he is a very funny man. His talents lie behind the camera, and that's what he's served the world better. But he's a very pleasant, funny man.
I also don't think his name is known enough outside of comedy fans. Do you know what I mean? His name should be a more mainstream known name in the world of comedy, considering he's the director of Bottom and Red Dwarf, and he's directed on a whole load of other shows, and Kevin and Perry Go Large. Anyway, so we're looking forward to having Ed joining us live on stage for our live podcast. We're still
May 31st.
May 31st.
Well, it's already sold out, so we don't need to keep plugging it. But we can't wait to see everyone there. And just so that you know, if you did miss out on tickets for that, we hadn't really considered until the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival doing a live podcast. And now that we know that obviously there is an appetite there for potentially people to travel from their homes to come and listen to us live in a room, obviously with a special guest will be the plan. We're hoping to book a venue in London and potentially a venue in Edinburgh at the festival this summer. We will see how things go. We can't promise when or where just yet, or which special guest we will get, but it will be someone that is related to Bottom in some way. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled on our socials, and we'll obviously be updating you on a podcast as and when.
So we haven't entirely finalised our format for the live podcast yet, but a couple of things we're probably going to do is, one, we'll be bringing back the Talking Bottom quiz. So we'll be throwing some quiz questions.
And we're going to get Ed to get a finger on a sphincter.
Well, my thoughts are that maybe, and I'm just throwing ideas out here, are that I'll do questions because I know how much you guys like my questions. You guys could be one team, and we'll get Ed and maybe someone from the audience to be the other team. And also something else we'll be doing will be an exclusive reading of a scene from one of the first draft scripts from Smells that's never been seen or heard before, a scene that Rik and Aid wrote that was going to be the first scene of Smells and that's never been seen and that wasn't filmed for the episode.
That's great. Is that in our book? I know our book won't be out by then, so this would still be a scoop.
The entire scene is not in there. We talk about it, and we talk about the content of it in the book, but we don't have the entire scene in the book. But we'll be doing that scene on stage for the audience.
And it should be stated, in case anyone's thinking, oh, but I haven't got a ticket. We will, of course, put out the podcast after it's been recorded live, so that anybody listening will be able to hear what we've talked about with Ed. And if you are going to be there live in the room, like I say, email us with any questions that you got for Ed by 11mafkingparade@gmail.com.
Do you think someone's going to shout out, have a wank?
Oh, I mean, I kind of hope so, but I also kind of hope not. But.
Well, we don't want too many heckles, do we? But it will be fun to see what it's like live in the room. Like I say, like a lot of love for Rik is going to be at that festival. In that room in particular, I think it's going to be off the scale in terms of how great it's going to be to meet other fans. I've been thinking for a while about doing a Bottom convention, and I think we'll get a gauge that day as to whether there's an appetite for that. There were several Rik Mayall conventions in the years after he died. I did some quizzes at them, and it's how we sort of got to know each other even better before we started the podcast, wasn't it, when we went to that? And I do think there's an appetite there. Obviously, it's there for this comedy festival, but I think it would be great to do a Bottom-specific convention where we get special guests and we can really geek out with a load of other fans.
I've had Red Dwarf conventions. I know that's sci-fi, but it is comedy sci-fi, isn't it? Yeah. And there isn't a sitcom comedy convention that I can think of, but why not?
That's what I think. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see whether there's an appetite there. Obviously, it would depend on the guests you can get, because the Red Dwarf ones are brilliant because you have all the cast. Yeah. And obviously, Bottom, we're already missing one key member of the Bottom cast, unfortunately, because Rik is no longer with us. And Aid, we keep getting asked to get him on the podcast. He doesn't have time. He probably will not want to be there in person. So, we will try. But what's brilliant is there's what you do also get at the sci-fi and Red Dwarf festivals, conventions, is the likes of Ed By talking in Q&As, and you get everyone who was maybe bit parts and, not as prominent as the main cast talking, and, costume designer, all that kind of thing, which we still actually need to explore, don't we? There is so much more, even though we've written the book, and we had to stop at some point and say, this is it, this is done, we've got to lock it down. We couldn't
have taken longer than
exactly, because we couldn't get Linda Wood, could we, the costume designer, and there's still things that we can geek it. Don't think the book's it, guys. We're gonna never stop talking about it.
The thing is, it's wonderful to kind of like in inverted commas, complete a book, and that moment where you go, right, we're done, and then you go through the edit process, and as you're doing it and you're seeing where you've put the comma in the wrong place, you still then go, oh, let me just amend this line just to add this thing, and then at some point it will get printed and we'll still be finding out new things from people who worked on Bottom, people who worked with Rik and Ade, from documentaries we've not seen, from clips that we've not heard before, and we'll go, oh man, that's a really good bit. I wish I'd put that in the book, but it's gone now.
One day we'll get that time machine and we'll go and watch Waiting for Godot in the West End with Rik and Ade. There's going to be all kinds of things that we'll continue to learn about, but we really do hope that the book will inform a lot of you listeners about things that you haven't heard before, because we learnt a lot along the way, didn't we?
As someone who was never a massive fan of Waiting for Godot, I came to appreciate it in a new light based on the work
The documentary about Bottom recently, that one of the other things that I really found fascinating was when Ade revealed that he wrote a lot of Rik's lines and Rik wrote a lot of Ade's lines. I think that is a really because I don't think that had ever come up before. They'd never been asked, I guess, who does that in the writing process. Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting thing into their psyche and how they wrote together.
Just to talk about culture, I've got an interesting fact about culture that I've discovered since we wrote the book, so it's not in the book, but if we do a quiz on the live podcast, it may form the basis of a question.
God.
And I'll be elaborating on it further in our exclusive podcast episode that's only available to book backers.
Right. Does this contain a measurement of miles from an arbitrary distance of... No? All right.
It's to do with who was watching the show being recorded. That's all I'll say.
Thank you for listening. If you still aren't following us on socials and somehow you've downloaded the podcast, do look us up. We're at Talking Bottom on Instagram, Twitter, X, and Facebook and Blue Sky. And we look forward to seeing everyone who has bought a ticket for the Rik Mayall Comedy Festival, Talking Bottom Live. It's going to be exciting to get in the room with people who've listened. We've never seen what you all look like. Some of you might not know what we look like.
I hope everyone turns up.
Yeah.
What a fantastic prank it would be if all of you conspired together and booked the ticket, still spent the money,
just
didn't show up.
Don't give them that idea, man.
Everyone's paid, but the room's empty.
Just to shame us in front of their
Shall we still interview Ed? It'll just be in a really echoey room with no laughter.
Yeah. Well, just like we do the podcast usually. It's going to be great, and if everyone turns up, then it'll be fun.
We should say that whilst our show and many of the other shows have sold out, there are still tickets available for some of the other shows. And you can go to rikmayallcomedyfestival.com/line-up to look at the lineup, and you can buy tickets. There'll be ways to Google Rik Mayall Comedy Festival and you'll find ways to buy tickets for the ones that haven't sold out yet.
And I imagine even if you haven't got a ticket to all of the shows, there's going to be loads of stuff, like you say, that exhibition of Rik Mayall memorabilia is going to be worth it, isn't it, for geeks like us?
Yeah,
I can't wait to go and have a look at
we'll
Rik's Y-fronts.
We'll be wandering around as well, so if you see us, you can accost us at some point and why did the fucking book take so long?
The Rik memorabilia exhibition that's been put on has been put on by Andy Hollingworth and Zoe Reid. Zoe Reid does a fantastic line in Rik costumes that she creates for herself. She's got like flash heart and a load of other stuff. She's great at that stuff. And Andy Hollingworth is a great photographer who's photographed a lot of celebrities and comedians and actors, and he is like a big collector or a big photographer of old comedy tickets, so like BBC studio recordings or that kind of thing. So they're both of them are huge comedy fans. So that is going to be a great thing to see. That's free. You haven't got to buy tickets. You can just drop in and see it. So I don't know the entire contents of it, but there's going to be a lot of good stuff.
We've got one of those tickets in the book, haven't we?
We've got a picture of it. Yes, a recording.
Not the actual one, obviously.
It's a picture of the recording of. Is it Smells?
It's Smells. I think so. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Exclusive in the book.
Wow.
And at the Comedy Festival.
Worth it just for that ticket, right?
There's pictures in the book that have never been seen before, so it's worth it for those alone, plus the 90,000 words that we've written to accompany them as well.
And
I wrote them, really.
Backing, rewards, which are to be determined, original artwork, original podcast, tat, but bottom-related tat. Bye.
Yes, thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.